The movie opens with our protagonist, Eddie, about to throw himself from the balcony of a skyscraper amidst aggressive banging on his door. The story then shifts to a few weeks earlier, when Eddie is a struggling author with writer's block. He is unkempt due to frustration and excessive alcohol use. His girlfriend, Lindy, breaks up with him because of his lack of progress, motivation, and focus. The following day, on his way home, Eddie bumps into Vernon, the brother of his ex-wife Melissa, who invites him for a drink at a bar. As they catch up, Eddie tells Vernon about his creative struggles. Vernon teases him and later offers a sample of a new nootropic called NZT-48, a cognitive-enhancing drug that Vernon claims allows users to access their brain's full capacity. Eddie reluctantly takes the pill. Vernon also gives Eddie his business card and leaves. On his way home, Eddie reflects on how chaotic and hopeless his life has become, and, thinking things can't get any worse, decides to take the pill. When he arrives at his apartment, he is confronted by his landlord's wife, who starts yelling at him for being behind on rent. At that moment, the drug kicks in. Eddie suddenly finds he has perfect recall, can analyze minute details at incredible speed, and has vastly improved interpersonal skills. Using his newfound abilities, he calms her down, helps her with her law school homework, and they end up sleeping together. Motivated and inspired, Eddie cleans up his apartment and writes several pages of his book. The next day, however, the drug wears off, and he returns to his old self. Remembering the work he had done, he submits the pages to his publisher, promising to finish the book soon. Later, he returns home and finds multiple voicemails from his publisher, who is amazed by his writing and urges him to call her immediately. Eddie is thrilled, but realizes he can't continue without NZT, so he sets out to find Vernon. When Eddie arrives at Vernon's place, he finds him badly beaten, with cuts and bruises. Vernon agrees to give Eddie more NZT, but asks him to run a few errands first. A few hours later, Eddie returns to discover Vernon has been murdered, and the apartment is ransacked, as if someone was searching for something. Shocked and confused, Eddie calls 911 to report the murder. Realizing that the killer was likely looking for NZT, Eddie searches the apartment and finds Vernon's stash hidden in the oven just before the police arrive. He is questioned but eventually released since he was the one who called, and there isn't enough evidence to charge him. With a stash of NZT and a few $100, Eddie's life changes dramatically. He finishes his book quickly, engages in various activities, and travels the world with new acquaintances, thanks to NZT boosting his charm and influence. Wanting more than just the high life, Eddie decides to invest in the stock market. With NZT's help, he begins to crack algorithms and understand Wall Street, turning small investments into large returns. Hungry for more capital, he borrows $100,000 from a Russian loan shark named Gennady. Soon after, he gets hired by a brokerage firm and turns his capital into over $2 million in just a few weeks, stunning those around him. Eddie rekindles his relationship with Lindy. During dinner, she is visibly intimidated when he effortlessly speaks fluent Italian with the waitress. Later that evening, Eddie notices a man trailing them but remains undaunted. His rapid rise in finance catches the attention of billionaire tycoon Carl Van Loon, who is impressed and invites Eddie to advise on a potential merger with another billionaire, Hank Atwood. However, after their meeting, Eddie experiences an 18-hour blackout, a side effect of NZT he refers to as a time skip. During that lost time, Eddie walks over 30 blocks, gets into a fight, goes clubbing, and sleeps with a woman he met at a party. The next day, feeling sick, he tries to quit NZT, but soon realizes he can't function or study the files Van Loon gave him without it. During a meeting with Van Loon, Eddie is distracted and absent-minded. He sees a news report about a woman murdered in her hotel room. It turns out to be the same woman from his blackout. Horrified, he abruptly leaves and throws up, another side effect of NZT. He begins to suspect he might have killed her while on the drug. Eddie tries to reach out to Melissa, Vernon's sister, and his ex-wife to ask about the drug, but she is hesitant. He then discovers that most of the people Vernon gave NZT to are either hospitalized or dead, except one man sitting next to him in a trench coat, revealed to be the same person who had been following him and Lindy. Eddie narrowly escapes and jumps into a taxi. Later, Eddie meets Melissa, who reveals she also used NZT. She tells him that trying to quit led to severe mental and physical side effects, warning him that stopping altogether could kill him. She advises him to reduce his dosage slowly. On his way home, Eddie is confronted by Gennady, who demands repayment with interest. While shoving Eddie, Gennady finds and takes one of his NZT pills, then begins using Eddie as a steady source of the drug. Now desperate for a pill after Gennady consumes his last one, Eddie stumbles into Lindy's office and confesses everything. Eddie asks Lindy to retrieve his stash from her apartment. While bringing the pills to him, she notices the man in the trench coat following her again. She calls Eddie for help, and he urges her to take one of the pills. As she does, she experiences the drug's effects, unlocking extraordinary reasoning abilities that allow her to outsmart the henchmen and escape. Lindy delivers the pills to Eddie but is disappointed by his behavior, which reminds her of the very reasons they broke up. She tells him she can't be with someone who refuses to live an honest life. The next day, Eddie begins experimenting with NZT, adjusting his sleep schedule and food intake while learning to manage his dosage. He starts doubling it in hopes of minimizing side effects. He rents a lab in an attempt to reverse engineer the drug, hires an attorney to keep the police away from the investigations surrounding Vernon's death and the murdered woman, and also hires 2 bodyguards to protect himself from Gennady or anyone trying to steal his supply. On the day of the merger, Atwood's wife informs Van Loon that her husband has fallen into a coma, halting the deal. Eddie recognizes Atwood's driver as the man in the trench coat and realizes Atwood is suffering from NZT's side effects. The following day, Eddie is called in for a police lineup after a witness places him near the hotel room of the murdered woman. During the lineup, his attorney, secretly working against him, steals Eddie's entire NZT stash from his coat. Meanwhile, Gennady realizes Eddie won't be supplying him with any more pills. Shortly after, Eddie begins to experience severe withdrawal while being questioned by Van Loon about Atwood's condition. He rushes to the bathroom to take a pill but discovers his stash is missing. In a state of panic, a parcel arrives at Van Loon's office. Inside are the severed hands of Eddie's bodyguards. Terrified, Eddie rushes home and locks himself in. Soon, the doorbell rings. On the security camera, he sees Gennady and 2 henchmen trying to break through his 6-inch thick front door. Realizing there's no way out and no one coming to save him, Eddie climbs onto his balcony, preparing to jump. In this moment of desperation, Eddie's survival instincts kick in. He remembers possibly hiding a pill. He searches his travel bag frantically and finally finds a single pill at the bottom of a can. Just then, Gennady bursts in, startling Eddie. He trips, and the pill slips from his hand. Crying out in despair, Eddie heads for the balcony, but the henchmen grab him, punching him in the stomach and holding him down. Gennady orders them to search the apartment for more NZT, while he brags about how injecting the drug directly into the bloodstream gives him longer-lasting brain function and milder side effects. As Gennady threatens to disembowel Eddie, Eddie quietly grabs a knife from a nearby box and fatally stabs him. Weakened and nearly unconscious, Eddie consumes Gennady's blood to ingest the NZT remaining in his system. The drug kicks in, restoring his abilities. He then kills the remaining henchmen. Later, Eddie confronts the man in the trench coat and deduces that Atwood had hired him to find more NZT. After Atwood dies, the 2 retrieve Eddie's stolen stash from the attorney's apartment. 1 year later, Eddie has retained his wealth, published a best-selling book, and is now running for the U.S. Senate. Van Loon pays him a visit and reveals he has acquired the company that made NZT and shut down Eddie's private lab. He offers Eddie a continuous supply of the drug in exchange for becoming his personal lobbyist. But Eddie turns him down, claiming that he has perfected the drug and successfully weaned himself off it, retaining all its benefits without any side effects. To prove it, he predicts a traffic accident just before it happens, and even diagnoses Van Loon's heart condition, leaving the billionaire astonished. Later, Eddie meets Lindy for lunch at a Chinese restaurant. He casually orders in fluent Mandarin, prompting Lindy to eye him with suspicion. Eddie smiles at her knowingly, implying he's still on NZT and had only bluffed to Van Loon, distancing himself from any shady dealings as the movie comes to a close. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on the next video.